Record. And this is session 6. We'll be finishing programming today and then beginning operations. We had left off on sessions 5 with the middle of programming. So this section coming up is prepare programs and special events. And this has to do with content, lesson plans, activities, and format. So following program assessment activities and goal and objective development, the Park and Recreation professional determines the content of the program. To determine the program's content, you must review the structure and order of possible activities that constitute a program. Even though the overall content of a program may be apparent, like a softball tournament, the exact order and interaction of events must be specified. In the current literature, planning the timing or ordering of events is referred to as animating a program or designing its flow. The content of all possible programs is too diverse and expansive to discuss in the book that I'm reading from. However, there are a number of program design principles that will apply to the order of events in all programs. The whole concept of a program suggests that the programmer will preconceive and anticipate what the experience will be like for the participant. The programmer will then select the activities, in other words, content, and place them in the appropriate order, animate, to orchestrate the occurrence, which is the flow, of the program to achieve the goals and objectives specified. Preparing programs often requires determining several factors, including a theme, a format, program partners, complying with accessibility standards, and developing the program plan. So under theme should be encompassing and distinguishing to a program and is consistent with its design goals and overall content. For example, an annual fall celebration, the colors of all the decorations, the programs, lighting, and clothing should be fall colors such as orange or brown. The benefits intended from participation may best be provided through the consistent thematic presentation of all elements of a program's design. The next area is format. Programs may be offered through several different organizational structures. For example, softball may be offered as an instructional clinic, a league, a tournament, a weekend instructional workshop, or as a drop-in facility operation during which participants organize themselves to practice on an agency's diamond. The following program formats are generally recognized: self-directed, special event or performance, leagues, tournaments, clinics, instructional classes, drop-in services, open facility operations, and clubs. Selecting a format determines how a service will be organized for delivery and can influence who will be the most likely customers. For example, beginners in an activity are likely to register for instructional classes, but are not as likely to sign up for a tournament. The opposite is true of experienced participants. The Park and Recreation professional may use one of these various programs operating formats in two ways. One is to ensure the comprehensiveness of service opportunities. A comprehensive agency will offer a variety of service formats to its constituencies. A continuum of opportunities could range depending on the activity from instructional classes, which are beginner, intermediate, or advanced, to self-directed participation, to the organization and operation of a club focused on the activity. And the second way is to expand product offerings. Often the market for current successful activities may be expanded by offering the same activity in different formats. Program partners. Determining who the program partners are and what their contributions are is necessary for delivery of many programs and events. Sections 2G and 2H, which we've already reviewed, outline the benefits of partners. Accessibility standards. All program operations, including the provision of facilities, activities, events, and services, must comply with the Americans with Disability Act, also known as ADA. And this was enacted by Congress on July 26, 1990, and later amended with changes effective January 1st, 2009. The overriding principle of this act is the notion of inclusion, including individuals with disabilities as full and active members of the community. The service delivery principle replaced the idea that agencies could meet their obligation to individuals with disabilities by providing them with special services. Their participation must now be accommodated in almost all programs. Individuals are considered to have a disability if they have a mental or physical impairment that substantially limits a major life activity. Their impairment is normally regarded as being a disabling condition, and the impairment is permanent. There are 5 major areas specifically covered by ADA: employment, government services, and public transportation, private entities offering public accommodations, communication systems, and miscellaneous. There is no doubt that public recreation operations are covered by this act and thus required by law to accommodate individuals with disabilities. This includes the operation of all facilities, trips, tours, and program services, as well as accommodating individuals with such things as telecommunications, relay services, and sign interpreters as necessary. We are expected to know the requirements of ADA and to comply with them. The following standards exist under ADA. Number 1, an agency may not refuse to allow an individual with a disability to participate in a service, program, or activity because they have a disability. Number 2, unless a fundamental alteration in the program would occur, the agency must make reasonable accommodations in policies, practices, and procedures that prohibit access to a program or service. The definition of reasonable accommodation can be an issue of disagreement. Reasonable accommodations can include such things as a sign language interpreter, recreation assistant, adaptive equipment, or large print brochures. Number 3, an agency may not place special charges on individuals with disabilities to cover the costs incurred by the agency to accommodate their participation. Number 4, agencies must ensure that individuals with disabilities are not excluded from services, programs, and activities because buildings are inaccessible. Accommodating this may not be accomplished by carrying an individual into an inaccessible facility except in manifestly exceptional circumstances. However, agencies are not required to make all facilities accessible as long as the services offered in inaccessible facilities are also available in other accessible locations that are reasonable alternatives. Agencies are not required to take actions that result in fundamental alteration of a service, an undue financial burden, or an undue administrative burden. The next one is, if an accommodation would cause an economic burden on the agency, it does not have to be made. The economic burden is measured on the entire agency budget and not the unit's budget. Economic burden is difficult to use as a reason not to make the accommodation. Separate services to individuals with disabilities may not be offered unless doing so is necessary to ensure that all services are equal. When separate services are operated, individuals with disabilities still have the right to participate in regular services. Accommodations to an activity that change the nature of it need not be made. For example, paving the Appalachian Trail is a fundamental change to the activity and does not need to be done. And the last section here is, if accommodations are denied, a written memo must be on file explaining the situation, the agency response, and why the accommodation was denied. When we're working in commercial facilities, we have a slightly different set of requirements, but these two are guided by the basic principle of inclusion, which is accommodating the participation of individuals with disabilities in regular services. The next section is provide direct leadership of recreation activities, facilitating programs. As we discussed earlier, specific supervision involves observing, overseeing, and managing the conduct of a specific activity, facility, or program. At times, the park and recreation professional's specific supervision tasks may include the provision of direct leadership. Successful direct leadership consists of 3 phases: preparation, priming the group, and delivery. Each of these is described below. It is suggested that an activity plan be put into writing and address each of the 3 leadership phases. The first leadership phase, again, was preparation. It's preparation, priming the group, and delivery. So preparation, and so it says, effective leadership starts with careful preparation. Preparation includes creating the activity plan to guide the leaders. The activity plan will be impacted by, and they give 3 things. Actually, they give 5 things. The first one is group composition. Good leaders will always consider the size of the group and its impact on leadership, the abilities of the participants, for example, beginners or advanced, the gender of the group, their needs, and the experience the group has with the activity itself, as well as each other. The next one is goals and objectives. Goals and objectives of the program will drive the activity choices and leadership techniques used. And we already discussed this in detail earlier in this chapter. Risk management. With any activity, risk management requires careful attention. Risk management means that leaders minimize the undesirable risk and dangers associated with activities. There are essentially 3 means to handle risk. First, leaders will either remove the risk by eliminating the problem or eliminating the activity altogether. Second, the risk can be reduced by implementing safety precautions or changing how an activity is conducted. And lastly, the agency can accept risk that is inherent to the activity. There is some risk that is inherent or a natural part of an activity. In order to participate, people need to know that the risk is an aspect. This is particularly true in some outdoor recreation activities like whitewater rafting or climbing. The next one is the environment. Careful consideration should be given to the environment. This could mean selecting an environment that is appropriate for the activity in terms of space and equipment needed. It may mean adapting to a less than desirable environment. For example, rainy days may mean that a large number of children are in a gym during camp. Activities will be adapted to accommodate the number of children and the environment available. The last one is the activities chosen. Selecting the appropriate activities for the group will help a leader be more successful. The activities should be compatible with the group composition. The activity plan should have more than the anticipated number of necessary activities in case some of the activities do not work with the group. Transitions from one activity to the next should also be planned. Keep in mind that participants, especially young children, should not have a lot of unoccupied time. This can increase the need for extensive behavior management. And remember, the activity plan, this is under preparation. So preparation includes creating the activity plan to guide the leaders, but it's impacted by the things I just talked about. And then again, under leadership, 3 phases. The next one was priming the group and then delivery. So priming the group, following the activity preparations, the park and recreation professional primes the group for the activity. This technique involves the integration of fun, experiential, and unique methods to get the group's attention. Often, larger groups are subdivided into smaller groups to create more participant-friendly settings. Good leaders plan these elements of the experience so that they can enhance the activities rather than detract from them. And then, of course, we had delivery. The final phase of direct leadership is the actual delivery of the activity. This is where we perform introductions during this stage. Typical introductions include an introduction of instructors and staff, depending on the activity, describing the activity, stating the goals of the activity, and providing activity directions. The delivery aspect of direct leadership also encompasses managing the activities as the participants are engaged in it, as well as knowing when to stop an activity or take a different approach to it. An activity should always be stopped while participants are still having fun. Losing participants to boredom will leave that as the last feeling about the activity in their minds. Leadership is about having a solid understanding of groups' activities and the entire planning process. Good leaders must be able to be proactive regarding issues that could arise and reactive to unanticipated problems. In these cases, understanding the group dynamics and how to select a schedule of activities designed to accomplish stated program benefits or outcomes is an essential skill of our profession. The next section is recruit and retrain customers and participants. Customer recruitment and retention are what will make a recreation agency thrive. Recruiting customers will occur from a quality marketing plan. A marketing plan is created each year and is a guide that outlines all marketing activities the agency will undertake. Keep in mind that marketing is far more encompassing than promotions and advertising. Marketing is planning and the executive, the 4 Ps. So marketing is planning, and it says executive, the 4 Ps, and I think it's supposed to say executing the 4 Ps. And that is product and service, price, place, and promotions. The contents of a marketing plan are outlined in another section that we already did. Retaining customers. Quality customer service is necessary to retain customers over time. Customer service practices are detailed in another section. However, customer retention goes beyond quality customer service practices. To retain customers, it's important to understand their use levels. Customers can essentially be divided into 4 different groups. Non-users, light users, medium users, and high users. Light users or non-users are most often the largest group in an agency, and high users are the smallest. Think of the users as being on a ladder with the non-users on the bottom rung and high users on the top. It is the desire of the agency to move people up the ladder from where they currently are. Ideally, an agency would want all high users. A goal in the marketing plan may be to attract 20% more first-time users to become light users. Think about this in terms of golf. The agency wishes to attract new golfers to play at the course. They may do this through new programs to teach beginners about golf, or by developing strategies to entice golfers at other courses to use the agencies. Keep in mind, it is much more cost-effective to move light and medium users up the ladder than it is to attract non-users. This does not mean that non-users should be ignored. They are often a viable market to target. The marketing plan will help identify groups to target and which ones will result in the greatest benefits. The program schedule is also a significant tool to use in retaining customers. Consider the different users' levels that we just mentioned. Opportunities for each level of participation should be made available. Let's see, an example is a pool pass. Daily or seasonal passes are available to different levels of users, thus meeting their needs. Furthermore, the level of the program that can retain customers. A program for beginners will attract a different level of user than a highly competitive one or a program requiring high skill for participation. These things are best learned through a needs assessment and become part of the marketing plan. The marketing plan is key to recruiting and retaining customers. This will not happen without advanced planning, a thorough knowledge of the community, and strategies to recruit and retain users. The next section is develop a comprehensive program plan. And this is the last section in the programming chapter. So in order to develop a comprehensive program plan for each of the programs that we operate, we need to understand that we're responsible for operating numerous programs over the course of a year. Each of these programs is at various stages of implementation, and on any one workday, we may work on various components of several programs. Excuse me. Furthermore, it's often the case that numerous individuals, agencies, or units will be involved in the overall implementation and operation of a program. A comprehensive program plan helps the park and recreation professional identify all the activities. And then when I say activities in this context, it is not a recreation activity, but a management function. This is the technical term used in management planning. So the comprehensive program plan helps the park and recreation professional identify all the activities needed to implement a program, identify who's responsible for their implementation, and identify the time order of implementation. The program activities that must be included in a comprehensive program plan will vary depending on the magnitude of the program. So I'm going to read you now a list of the comprehensive list of activities that may be included in a plan, and there's quite a number of them. So remember, this is a comprehensive list of activities that may be included in the plan. The first one is a program title. In other words, what's the name of the program? What type of program is it? Sports, culture, arts, fitness, outdoor, etc. What operational format is being used to offer the program? Is it a workshop, special event, drop-in activity, etc.? The next one is a statement of agency or unit programming philosophy. And this would be what is the overall rationale for the agency's involvement in programming? This statement is not usually written for each program since it's the agency's ongoing program mission. The next one is the need for the program. And this is a statement of need for offering the program. Why is it being offered? Results of marketing surveys indicating a need for this program may be included here, as well as customer requests for the service. The next one is program goals and objectives or benefit statement. What are participants supposed to receive as a result of participating in this program? These should be clear, simple statements, the development of which has been described elsewhere in this guide. Promotion plan. The plan for promoting the program should be explained. including the conduits to be used, a timeline for the release of each form of promotion, and copies of the promotional literature to be used. The next one is a financial plan. And this is how a program will be financed and should be included. Normal practice is to include a list of expenses and anticipated revenues calculated at the proposed price for participation. The next one is a facility plan. And then this is where we should identify the venue where the program is to be operated. And then we should also provide a list of the equipment needed for the program with a diagram of the layout of the facility, including an illustration of the placement of special equipment. And then if the venue was reserved or contracted, a copy of the confirming document should be included in this section. The next section is supplies. This plan should include an itemized list of the supplies needed to operate a program along with their suppliers. If some of the supplies are to be contracted, like a food caterer, for example, a copy of these contractual agreements should be included. The next section is safety and risk management. Depending on the type of program, this section will vary in length. In a high-risk program, the safety measures to be taken should be explicitly detailed. Even in seemingly safe programs, some statement about the risk anticipated and the appropriate safety precautions should be included. All right, the next one is staffing plan. The number and types, classifications, or skill levels needed of employees needed to operate a program should be identified. In addition, if it's a seasonal program, a timeline for recruiting, hiring, and training the employees should be explained. An agenda for employee orientation for the event or program should be included if there is to be no specific training. Next one is a management plan. This term is usually applied to a written plan that identifies each management function to be completed, the specific activities within each, and a targeted completion date for each activity. All the information is transferred to an overall timeline. The resulting document is the master schedule that is referred to on an ongoing basis to track the implementation of the program. The next one is registration. How registration for the program will be conducted should be included. Any special regulations regarding registration should also be explained, including age restrictions, residency restrictions, and refund policies, etc. The next one is policy. Any special policies that govern the operation of a program are to be included in the management plan. An example of a program-specific policy would include special league rules governing the operation of a softball league. Operation plan. How will the program be organized and operated? A detailed script of its envisioned operation with the management leadership actions that must be implemented to ensure its operation should be included in this section. This may be the longest section of the plan because it scripts the entire operation of the program. And there's two more left. Cancellation plan. A detailed contingency plan for the cancellation of the program is a necessary section of the management plan. The cancellation plan should detail procedures for inclement weather cancellations. Let me start over. The cancellation plan should detail procedures for inclement weather cancellations, plans for relocating or rescheduling the program, refund procedures in the event of a cancellation, notification procedures and outlets for notification in event of a cancellation, and other specific cancellation details appropriate to the specific program. The last one is the program evaluation plan. This is a plan for how the program is going to be evaluated and this needs to be included in the management plan. And that concludes the section on develop a comprehensive program plan and the whole entire programming chapter. All right, I'm going to share my screen. You can put your answers there if you want in the can somebody please put in the chat box if you can see the test that says the following questions test the knowledge, or just respond by unmuting yourself. Okay, I got a chat. See what Jason says. I can see it. Great. Yes. D says yes. Great. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to you can put your answers in the chat box if you want. There's only 2 of you today, but I'm just going to read the first thing, and then you can look to see what answer it is, and I'll tell you what the correct answer is. Okay? Here we go. The following questions test the knowledge gained from this chapter. Now, number 1, successfully recruiting customers for the recreation program is the result of a quality what? Uh-oh, I'm looking for the chat here. Okay, A is from D, and Jason, do you have an answer? Oh, A, okay. The correct answer is C. So, hold on one second. Let me get this. So, successfully recruiting customers for the recreation program is a result of a quality staffing plan. And so that was covered. So, it's staffing plan. The next one is now. You know what? Hold on. This is the second time they've done that. So they have 2 number 1s in the book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cross out the first one, and we're going to go with the second one, which is A, because I thought it was the marketing plan. That's what we're talking about here. So it is A. So good job. The book has 2 number 1s in it. So when you get your book, D, you'll see that. Number 2, which of the following types of evaluation is conducted to measure participant outcomes as a result of completing the program? What do you all say there? Waiting for an answer. Jason says A, and D says A, and that is correct. Very good. Number 3, you have the responsibility of scheduling a large community recreation center, including 3 gyms and multiple classrooms. You are getting many competing requests for space. How do you decide what programs to put in each space? And I'm waiting for an answer. Okay, so the correct answer on this one is, if you don't know it, it is B. So you consult the established priority list for each room and for each hour of the day. Okay, number 4, park and recreation professionals conducting instructional classes will usually be engaged in which type of supervision? Waiting for answers. Okay. D, that is correct. It is, number 4 is D. So, specific. Very good. Number 5. A well-developed program objective should address, there they are. You can go ahead and guess, everybody. Okay. Okay. The answer to this one is A. So a well-developed program objective should address who's involved in the objective, what will be accomplished, how it will be accomplished, and when it will be accomplished. Okay? Number 6. A park and recreation professional who is seeking assessment data for program planning from the family member of an individual with a disability would likely utilize which data collection method? This should be an easy one. Okay, the answer is A, interview. Number 7. The typical first step in handling a customer complaint is and wait for answers. That's correct, D. And Jason, very good. That is B, which is receive the complaint without comment and do not argue with the individual making the complaint. Number 8. You're developing an activity plan for a group of 35 children ages 7 to 9, which is not a suggested practice to follow. It should be an easy one. C, correct. So provide, the one thing you don't want to do is provide free time for the participants to do what they want. Number 9, a park and recreation professional is designing a 12-week summer day camp program and is assessed the physical, fiscal, and human resources associated with the program. Which resources is the professional missing from their assessment? And the correct answer is, waiting for everybody to read it there. C is correct. Good job. Number 10, last question. Which of the following problems is most appropriate to evaluate using a qualitative approach? Okay, and waiting for answers. So this one is D. So which of the following problems is most appropriate to evaluate using a qualitative approach? And D is understanding what it's like to participate in a yoga program that is changing its format from traditional yoga to a yoga's Pilates combination model. That would be D. All right, excellent. So I'm going to stop sharing now. So you should just see the regular screen. Can somebody please confirm that? All right. In the chat box, please. Let's see here. Confirm. Thank you. All right, so now we're going to start the operations section. And in order to do that, I want to share my screen again, and I want to put up this document. Can everybody see something that says Nature Crossing Park Recreation Interest and Survey? Please confirm. And I have a yes. Great, thank you. All right, here we go. So the content of the operations section of the CPRP exam is based upon 31 operational tasks. This is a huge section. This will be, I'm going to finish up in the next hour and 15 minutes, as much as I can, and then we'll send out the rest of it later on this weekend. And so chapter 5 will cover, this chapter covers what's needed to answer all the questions. And so it's 24% of the items on the exam. That's quite a few. And so basically, we're responsible for the safe and effective management of the agency's park areas and facilities. Competencies in the areas of planning, management, and maintenance of these areas are critical to the success of the agency's services. From conducting needs assessments for future resource development to implementing operating policies and procedures, the Parks and Recreation professional must possess the necessary knowledge, skills, and abilities to effectively manage and control these facilities and park areas. So we have 31 tasks. First task is manage contract agreements with independent contractors. So managing independent contractors has become a common activity, ranging from concessionaires to fitness instructors, independent contractors, all that serve park and recreation agencies in a variety of capacities. The use of independent contractors can also assist the agency with risk management practices. In particular, agencies are not liable for negligent practices by the independent contractor or required to provide health insurance or other benefits to the contractor. These opportunities for resource protection can be appealing to Parks and Recreation professionals in the efficient operation of their services. An important initial step in working with independent contractor is the development and management of a contract agreement. At a minimum, the contract agreement should include the following elements. So it should include the services to be performed, which includes agreement, should outline in detail the services to be performed for the agency. In many cases, this outline will be included as an appendix or attachment to the contract agreement. The next thing should be the agreement terms. This is the start and end dates of the agreement. Is an example. Yes, so basically the starts and end dates of the agreement. The next thing is the payment for services provided. So this should be clearly specified, such as the rate of pay schedule, et cetera, to be provided to the independent contractor by the agency for services performed. It is also expected that language pertaining to state and federal taxes should be included in this section. In particular, the agency should state that it will not withhold any state or federal taxes from the contractor's payment. If applicable, fringe benefits should also be addressed. The next thing that should be in the contract is specification of expenses incurred. The agreement should outline who's responsible for any expenses associated with the service. In most instances, the independent contractor will be responsible for expenses such as travel required to perform the service, license fees, permits, and insurance, things like that. The next thing is equipment usage and expectations. So this should say who will furnish the needed equipment to perform the service. The next thing should be the status of the contractor. The agreement should clearly state the relationship of the independent contractor to the Park and Recreation Agency. In particular, The agreement should indicate that the contractor and the contractor's employees are not employees of the Park and Recreation Agency. The next thing is a specification of permit, licenses, and or certificate requirements. So in the agreement, it should specify any permit, licenses, or certification requirements for the independent contractor. The next one is dispute resolution. The agreement should describe in detail how disputes are to be addressed and resolved by each party. The next one is unemployment or workers' compensation. The agreement should clearly state the agency's plans regarding unemployment or workers' compensation claims. In particular, it should state that it will not make any unemployment compensation payments on behalf of the independent contractor, nor will the agency obtain any compensation insurance for the contractor. Insurance. The agency will clearly state that no insurance coverage will be provided to the independent contractor. It is also expected that the agreement form will require that the independent contractor possess the relevant insurance coverage, such as automobile liability, etc. Indemnification. The agreement will state that the independent contractor will hold the Parks and Recreation Agency harmless from any loss or liability associated with the services performed. Termination of agreement. Information detailing the process and causes for terminating agreement for both parties should be outlined, and the last thing that should be on the agreement should be signatures, and space for signatures by all parties should be included on the agreement form. So again, in managing these agreements and the work of independent contractors, we must carefully review all aspects of the contract. When needed, we may consult with the agency's legal counsel for clarification and or interpretation of the agreement. That concludes the section on managed contract agreements with independent contractors. The next task area, let's see, is conduct assessments of specific programs, areas, products, and services. And so in looking at the chart that's here, we have a survey that we're going to be, I'm going to go through with you when we get to the example. So it's on your, should be on your screen. So conducting assessments of specific programs, areas, products, and services, and remaining accountable for expenditures and to meet community needs, we must conduct ongoing assessment of programs, park areas, products, and services. A recognized method to complete these assessments is the needs assessment. The purpose is to provide accurate feedback on community attitudes, opinions, and perceptions of the agency's resources, such as programming, facilities, park areas, and services. This survey information, if used properly, the Recreation Agency is better able to put its resources to use in addressing community needs and concerns. And here is the example. So here's the title page. You can see, I'm going to go through it really slowly. That's the title page. While I'm scrolling through it, I'm going to continue reading. A common area of the needs assessment is the assessments of the agency's natural resource areas. The currently accepted practice for assessing the needs of a natural resource area is to assess both physical and both the physical aspects of the area that needs to be developed, as well as the needs of the identified target market of the users. So this is a survey. I'm going through it slowly so you can pause it if you need to, if you want to look at it further. So as we're going through this, basically when the previous practice was generally just to focus exclusively on the facility itself, while giving little attention to the desires and needs of the anticipated users of an area. Thus, it is important to emphasize the need to assess target markets and incorporate these into the overall needs assessment for the development of a natural resources area. Two conflicting management strategies that are often at the core of a natural resource needs assessment is development and conservation. Therefore, assessing the need to develop a natural resource area will focus on determining the development and management plan needed to facilitate access and showcase the unique attributes that warranted acquiring the area in the first place, preserving these attributes for future generations. So reconciling these two competing goals is an unending struggle in the planning, development, and ongoing management of all natural resource areas. So when you're assessing the natural resource area, consider the following. Environmental impact. Which impact will developing the area have on the resource itself, as well as the areas adjacent to the resource? Most of us express a sincere interest in the preservation of resources in park areas. For example, exposed tree roots, eroding hillsides, muddy paths, and other signs of human or vehicle impact or environmental concerns. Assessing the natural resource area requires knowledge of soil and vegetation type and the observation of visitor use patterns. Developing a plan for natural resource areas should include preservation of the natural environment. So they have a couple sections here. Access. What development is needed to provide visitors access to the resource, and what impact will this development have on the resource itself? For example, in some national parks, visitors now park in large lots that are bused to the park's main attraction. This arrangement avoids the adverse impact that would result from large parking lots developed near the resource itself. Access issues also include circulation patterns, modes of transportation, density levels of development, and visitor safety. In developing a park or natural resource area, we should determine the best location for water resources, sanitation facilities, garbage collection points, lighting fixtures needed for safety, as well as surveillance and emergency exits from structures, as well as from a forested area. A further concern about access revolves around the issue of distribution of park areas and facilities according to the demographic characteristics of the service population. Park and recreation agencies concerned with achieving social equity may allocate bigger and better parks to poorer neighborhoods whose citizens have less private recreation opportunities. And again, we're still under this section of surveys. So, developmental features. What are the unique features of the natural resource area? Which features should be developed for visitor access? How might these features be presented to the public? Again, I just want to remind everybody we're on conduct assessments of specific programs, areas, products, and services. That's the task area we're in. What development must occur for visitor access? The development of natural and man-made features in a park and natural resource area may enhance user participation and increase the aesthetic value of the area, or create improved operational efficiencies. These results generally occur only when an assessment of the park and user needs have been conducted and the development of these features is planned and carefully managed. Maintenance and operation. Consider maintenance and operation requirements in our rationale for resource development. Staffing and maintaining a national resource area requires personnel, equipment, and money. The cost of operations and maintenance must be included in all planning for resource development. In addition to the needs assessment for natural resource development, collect information in an effort to identify and address the needs for programs and facilities. A needs assessment survey is used to evaluate current facility services and to predict future programming and facility needs. When conducting a needs assessment for facility or program development, focus data collection efforts in the following areas. And there's, let's see, about 7 or so, 7 to 9. So first one's demographic information. 2, current participation patterns and rates. 3, attitudes and opinions of current facility users. 4, barriers facing users. 5, provide recreation interests and needs. 6, satisfaction with existing facilities and services. 7, participation of safety and or health hazards within the facilities. And 8, suggestions for needs, for areas of improvement. So needs assessment for the target population. Assessing target populations for specific program areas, products or services is a specific technique for implementing market segmentation and assessing the needs of the appropriate groups. Market segmentation is the process of dividing a heterogeneous market into smaller homogeneous groups who are similar in terms of wants, needs, demographic profiles, and how they respond to the marketing mix. In other words, the product, place, price, and promotions. Targeting marketing, on the other hand, is defined as selecting one or more market segments and focusing the market mix on this segment. Conducting a needs assessment for target populations involves determining the feasibility of targeting a specific market by assessing the viability of the market segment. Target markets that are viable will have the following 3 qualities. And so it'll be measurable, it must be able to access the market, and the market size. So under measurable, the agency will determine their size and identify the characteristics that make them a unique market segment worthy of targeting. These characteristics are important information for use in a program and design and promotion. And then accessing the market, the agency must know enough about the individuals in the market to be able to develop appropriate promotional strategies so that the availability of the service can be made known to the market. Sorry, I'm fighting a cold here. The agency must also possess the necessary resources to access the market. These resources include financial, physical, such as facilities and equipment, technological, and human resources. And the last one again was market size. So the market must be large enough to warrant separate attention. Financial techniques such as break-even analysis, which you already learned about, are often performed by agencies to determine the market's feasibility. Those programs that cannot return their costs plus the contribution margin required are simply not operated. And of course, I would disagree with that because our core programs we do subsidize. But anyway, it does say under this section that if it doesn't return our costs plus the contribution margin required, they're simply not operated. All right. Following the assessment and identification of a viable target population, assess the individual participant programming needs. This assessment requires the collection of information about program design features, market mix variables, and so on. For example, it may be determined that there is a viable market of third shift workers who desire services between 7 a.m. and 12 p.m. Although this is a market, there is not enough known to design and offer services to the market. Additional information such as activity interest and market mix features such as the day of the week and location of the program services they desire must be obtained from the target market. This assessment activity gathers additional information needed to design and market an identified program to a specific target market. And that concludes that section on conduct assessments of specific program areas, products, and services. The next section is conduct inventories of assets, equipment, and supplies. So, performing an inventory of the agency's assets, equipment, and supplies can provide valuable supplemental information to the agency. To complete the task, you should complete an itemized inventory of the facilities and equipment. The inventory provides us with a clear picture of the present state and condition of the agency's facilities and equipment. Here's an example of an inventory checklist. So it has a facility name, the square feet, and then the title of the facility inventory checklist. And then I'm going to scroll through it. So it's quantity, replacement cost, condition, comments, and problems. And you can see on the left-hand side are all the amenities. Okay. Okay, the next section, I'll just leave it right there on the chart, is to conduct inventories of programs, both internal and external, that are being offered. This is quite a long section, so we are responsible for providing the community quality recreation opportunities. We must ensure that our public has the opportunity to participate in quality recreation programs, attractive parks, and effective and safe recreation facilities. These services can promote a stronger sense of community identity, improve the quality of life for the residents, and create a positive social impact within the community. These types of services are typically divided into three areas: parks, programs, and facilities. Agencies must be concerned with the scope and quality within these three areas. One of the foundational steps is to ensure that the programming provided by the agency is meeting or exceeding the community's needs through an inventory of programs, both internal and external within the community. Completing these inventories provides us with information that can be used in our agency's short and long-term planning. To complete these inventories, this is what we should do. There's two main areas. The first one is to review the current recreation-related opportunities within the given area. And some tips for doing this include Examine the agency's programming guides and brochures. Network with recreation departments in the area. Visit the area tourism office. Review secondary sources such as online directories for programming information in the area. Speak with outreach offices in the area, and visit with representatives from local hospitals and schools. And then the other thing we should do to complete the inventory is guided by the information collected in what I just said in number 1. We should prepare a recreation inventory for the given area. Typical information included within the inventories include the type of program offered, the target market for program, the contact person for each program, including the name, agency title, phone number, etc. Dates of operation, number of sessions, registration information, program location, such as areas and facilities, unique features of the program, and equipment resources associated with the program. That concluded that section. The next section is establish relationships with outside organizations, such as leagues, association, clubs, nonprofits, schools, districts, faith-based organization, advocacy, and friends groups. Partnerships in parks and recreation allow for better use of resources and increased service provision. They also decrease duplication of services in a community, better meet the needs of the customers, and enhance efficiency within the agency. Partnerships can be established for programs, services, and facilities, and they can cross sectors. For example, public agencies do not have to create partnerships only with other public agencies. Partnerships between the 3 sectors, public, nonprofit, and commercial, can be mixed so that public agencies could partner with a commercial sector agency to provide programming, or a nonprofit agency could partner with a public agency to provide access to a facility. Making partnerships work necessitates open communication first and foremost. In addition, solid partnerships require a collaborative type of give and take relationship where both parties benefit in some way. It also requires a clearly articulated understanding of what each agency needs, roles, and responsibilities are, and it also requires a formalized written agreement. This written agreement should include several items such as an outline of each agency's responsibilities, legal responsibilities and liabilities, staff and program supervision details, quality control, and partnership dissolution and review processes. Partnerships can both thrive and fail. Partnerships that fail usually do so because of several factors, including the lack of communication between partners, the lack of evaluation of the partnership agreement, and the partnership itself, loss of control of the resources by one agency, and the lack of trust by the partners. In addition to agency-level partners, staff members can also build relations with outside organizations. In particular, staff members can represent the organization in a number of ways, including departmental display at events, conventions, or in malls. The displays may be large boards depicting samples of services and facilities, or demonstrations of programs in an interactive booth. In order to effectively represent the agency, the staff person must be well-versed in all aspects of the agency and not just his or her area. The public will expect the representative to be able to answer an array of questions. One axiom here is to never give incorrect information. If the staff person is unsure of an answer, They should make arrangements to follow up with the individual in a reasonable amount of time with the correct information. Communication with participants and outside organizations is of paramount importance to Parks and Recreation. This communication process is complex and multifaceted. It is also part of the overall customer service and marketing operations in the agency. There are several methods used to communicate with the public and outside organizations, including speakers bureaus, public meetings, and employee relations. Speakers bureaus. Some agencies provide speakers and/or programs on request for meetings of civic clubs, PTOs, or professional groups. These speakers discuss the organization as a whole and/or focus on a particular area of interest, such as programs for people with disabilities. Public meetings. The public sector uses public meetings more than the nonprofit or commercial sectors in the Parks and Recreation field. They are used for several purposes. First, public meetings are held to inform the public and outside organizations of specific items or changes. Second, meetings can be used to consult the outside organizations on issues or to garner reaction to policy changes and/or other matters. Finally, they can be used to involve the public by getting their input on topics such as building a new community center or determining the needs of the community. Employee relations. Establishing and maintaining good relationships with the employees of the organization is an important public relations strategy that leads to the increased communication with the general public. Employees or the internal public need to be kept abreast of happenings in the agency so that they might better convey accurate information to the external public. Many of the same techniques for communicating with the external public can be used internally, including newsletters, brochures, websites, and personal communication. That concludes the section on establishing relationships with outside organizations. The next one is collaborate with related organizations. This includes leagues, school districts, other districts, departments, state and federal environmental, natural resource agency and state affiliates, professional associations, etc. So it's important to be connected to the community. These connections are established through networking or collaborating with both within and outside of the industry. We will collaborate with people who are affiliated both directly and indirectly with the field. These collaborations are used to accomplish tasks and meet goals and objectives of the agency. Examples of collaboration are, there's 3 of them. Frequent phone conversations with employees on a similar administrative authority from other organizations. 2, discussions with other professionals at local professional organizations. And 3, monthly meetings of a community council or similar organization, like the local chamber of commerce, for example, composed of community social service or park and recreation agency personnel. So it's not unusual that a business network aids us in accomplishing goals much quicker than would be possible without the network. This is due to the ability to make quick contact with the appropriate people and having already established a level of trust with these people. Networking and resource coordination. A community park and recreation system is larger than one of its component parts. It encompasses all of the agencies and enterprises in a community that offer recreation services, including the commercial, nonprofit, and public sectors. Coordinating activities and services can involve partnering with different agencies. These coordinated and collaborative efforts are much more common now, largely because of their proven benefits. These benefits include stretching existing physical, fiscal, and human resources, reducing the duplication of recreation services, streamlining the agencies in the community, improving organizational credibility and visibility, contributing to stronger interagency relationships, increasing network opportunities for staff, developing friendships among staff from different agencies, increasing opportunities for personal and professional growth, enhance the quality of life in a community, and qualifying for certain funding, grants, etc., that require collaboration. Integrating an agency's plan with those of a larger system is also important to make certain the total community park and recreation system is operating efficiently. An example could include giving other agencies notice of new facilities and programs that are being developed. For example, if the agency is beginning a hockey program for the first time, it would be essential to notify local sporting goods stores so they can better anticipate the demand for hockey equipment. If the local schools are moving to year-round scheduling of the school calendar, it would be essential to notify local agencies that provide recreation services so they may adjust their schedules, their scheduling configurations. Possible examples of coordination and integration are too numerous to list here. However, it is important to note that it is considered good and commonly accepted professional practice to engage in coordinating and integrating an agency's operation with the overall system. The goal of this is to optimize the efficiency and effectiveness of the overall community system. And that concludes collaborating with related organizations. The next section is follow energy efficient, environmentally friendly procedures such as disposal methods, purchasing of efficient supplies, green initiatives, lead, and recycling. In addition to enhancing the recreation experience of the participants, maintenance programs must also promote efficiency. Parks and recreation agencies are often looked upon as stewards of the conservation and preservation of a community's open spaces and natural resources. Thus, it is important for park and recreation agencies to not only place a strong emphasis on protecting these areas, but also on their methods of maintaining them. So disposal methods vary and are dependent upon several factors, including the type of waste material and the agency. Despite these differences, there are some universal energy efficient methods to consider when disposing of waste materials. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, encourages agencies to implement procedures to reduce the amount of waste requiring disposal through the following practices, and there's 3 of them: waste prevention, recycling, and composting. Okay, so under waste prevention, products and procedures should be implemented to reduce the amount of waste produced by the agency. Efforts should also be taken to make the waste less toxic. Under recycling, in addition to reducing the amount of waste produced, establish products and procedures that support the recovery of useful materials. One method to support material recovery and reuse is the development of a recycling program. Additional information about recycling programs can be found later in this section. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Composting. When possible, develop a composting program with your agency. Materials such as leaves and other organic waste, food scraps, and yard trimmings can be composted, producing natural fertilizer that can later be used by the agency in maintenance of their outdoor areas. Now, the purchase of efficient supplies. The U.S. Department of Energy has developed a plan for implementing energy efficient procedures. The plan identifies 14 best practices for agencies to adopt. And here they are. The first one is incorporate energy efficient goals into the agency's strategic plan. The next one is agencies should develop an energy management plan that should focus on the combination of the three elements, which are purchasing clean and reliable energy at the lowest cost, replacing old equipment and systems with new efficient technologies, and operating energy consuming equipment properly. The energy management plan should include an operations plan that provides specific instructions for adhering to these three elements. The third one is develop an energy accounting system to locate areas of potential savings. In addition, an energy accounting system provides the agency with the ability to track and measure the success or lack thereof of energy efficient strategies. Get some water. Okay, the next best practice is ensure that the quantity and quality of personnel is adequate. To operate at a high level of efficiency, staff must possess the necessary skills and training to perform the maintenance tasks. In addition to selecting qualified personnel, the park and recreation professionals should determine the appropriate number of people required to perform the various maintenance tasks. The next one is ongoing staff training is needed for the agency to continually improve and sustain efficient operations. The next one is when outsourcing is used, you should develop service contracts that address efficient building operation and include the methods to track operating changes, improvements, and or deficiencies over time. The next one is implement a cross-sectional approach to energy efficiency management. The operation of equipment is often performed by several Parks and Recreation staff, such as maintenance, recreation supervisor, facility supervisor, and custodian. The agency should ensure that all staff who operate equipment are trained in its energy efficient operation. The next one is maintain documentation of equipment use, problems, and maintenance. Documentation can increase troubleshooting ability while decreasing the amount of time spent defining and solving operational problems. Documentation can also serve as a training aid when orienting new staff. And the next one is ensure the agency has the appropriate diagnostic tools to identify equipment problems or maintenance needs. The next one is regular assessments of the Park and Recreation Agency's current operation and maintenance practices should be conducted. Attention should be paid towards understanding why facility systems are operated and maintained the way that they are, and where and what improvements would be most beneficial and cost effective. As an example, athletic field lighting should undergo regular assessments of both their scheduled hours of operation and the sport-specific lighting needs. For instance, higher light levels are needed for more advanced player skill levels, while programs involving a less competitive style play could be safely delivered with lower light levels. Identifying these discrepancies in lighting needs allow the agency to implement an athletic field lighting plan that can reduce costs and promote energy efficiency. The next best practice is once the assessments have been performed, you can determine which operation and maintenance practices, either currently or newly developed, are the most cost-effective. The results of the assessments can also identify areas for improvement. Once the improvements are identified, they can be implemented. The next one is understand the automatic control features on existing equipment. Most organizations do not take full advantage of systems capabilities. These systems can be programmed to accomplish control strategies such as optimal start-stop, chilled and water resets, and then night setback. Let me go over these systems again. So they can be programmed to accomplish control strategies such as optimal start and stop, chilled and heated water resets, night setback and setup, night purge, morning warm-up, and lighting sweeps. These strategies can save energy dollars beyond ordinary time of day control. The next best practice is operate equipment only when needed. We should develop procedures for turning off equipment and lights when they're not in use. And then the last one, the last best practice is to track actual performance against expected performance for major equipment. So it's useful to track energy use and demand at the equipment level. When staff does not have adequate information to access day-to-day equipment performance, energy-saving opportunities may be lost. To address this potential problem, implement procedures that regularly track actual equipment performance data against expected performance data obtained from the field testing the equipment. Once implemented, comparisons can be made between the equipment's benchmark performance criteria and the actual current and future performance data. When equipment does not meet expected performance criteria, it may indicate a need for improved or more frequent maintenance procedures. Okay. The next subsection here is green initiatives. In recent years, several initiatives have been introduced to reduce the Park and Recreation Agency's environmental impact. Many of these initiatives seek to foster and improve efficiency and eco-friendly practices in the area of waste management, electronics, purchasing, energy, water, and transportation. We should work to promote these practices in our agencies. In supporting these initiatives, we should embrace the following principles and practices. And there are 5 of them. Number 1, green initiatives and environmentally friendly practices require a supportive culture within the agency. From all levels, the agency must promote a workplace environment that encourages green practices. One way to communicate the value placed on green practices in the workplace is to integrate them into the agency's mission and goals. The second one is we should access the agency and its operations to identify potential areas for improvement. The next one is once areas in need of improvement have been identified, an action plan should be developed and should include strategies to improve green practices within the agency. Items to consider during this phase include the development of a policy and procedures manual, staff training if needed, equipment needs, overall costs, project timelines, and renovation scheduling. The next one is we should develop an evaluation system to track and monitor the green initiatives once implemented. Information such as actual versus expected energy usage, cost savings versus expected cost savings, constituent feedback, and maintenance related activities related to the newly adopted practices should be collected and assessed. The last one, which is a principle and practice to be able to go green, if you will, is based upon the data collected and its relationship to the agency's philosophy. We should assess the green initiatives and determine if any changes are needed. And then under LEAD, in recent years, several global efforts have been made to promote energy efficient and environmentally friendly practices in the workplace. One of these is the leadership in energy and environmentally, it's LEAD, leadership in energy and environmental design. It's a program established by the U.S. Green Building Council in 1993. Through their efforts, agencies are encouraged to apply for LEED certifications based on their performance in the areas of sustainable site development, water savings, energy efficiency, material selection, and indoor environmental quality. The agency can obtain LEED certification for specific areas and/or facilities, including new construction projects, existing buildings, commercial interiors, core and shell construction, retail areas, schools, healthcare areas, and home sites. Depending on the external review, the sites can be eligible for one of three levels of LEED certification. They have silver, gold, or platinum. Okay, under recycling. Recycling programs support energy efficiency and environmentally friendly practices by extending the life of various products through recovery and reutilization efforts. Recycling programs can be relatively quick and inexpensive ways for us to promote green practices and conservation within our agency and community. Although many materials can be recycled, some of the more common recycling programs adopted by our types of agency include the recovery of paper, glass, plastic, and metals. When feasible, we should consider potential collaborative efforts with other agencies to improve the effectiveness and efficiency of the recycling program. To develop a recycling program, here are some things to consider. There's 4 of them. The determination of the scope of the recycling program, such as the types of recyclable materials to be included in the program. 2, the identification and or development of resources, such as physical, financial, and human, required for the recycling program. 3, the development of collection, storage, and transportation plans for the recycling program. And 4, the implementation of an ongoing evaluation system to assess the recycling program. And that concludes the section, the very long section, on follow the energy efficient and environmentally friendly procedures. Okay, the next section is implement maintenance standards such as perform or request troubleshooting, routine maintenance, preventative maintenance, repairs, or replacement. Okay. So prior to implementing maintenance standards, an acceptable level of maintenance performance must be defined. The minimum level to maintain an area so it does not present an unsafe or hazardous environment. There are no premise defects, and there are no health hazards present. The highest level ensures maximal occupant safety and comfort, as well as their sensation of well-being. The highest level of maintenance should be the level park and recreation managers strive to accomplish. Cleanliness and good facility, i.e. the environment in which leisure occurs, design are key factors that contribute to overall satisfaction with participation in recreation programs. So under park maintenance standards, park areas represent a unique maintenance challenge. Public park recreation professionals have noted the difficulty of developing widely applicable standards of maintenance performance for park areas. In a cooperative project undertaken by two former branches of the National Recreation and Park Association and the American Park and Recreation Society and the National Society for Park Resources, 6 classes of maintenance performance were developed. These classes range from the most to the least intense maintenance based on the following 3 criteria. The first one is the visibility of the area. For example, is it high profile or not? The second one is the desired state of landscape condition. Is this an urban or natural area? And the last one is the intensity of the use. This effort also identified 14 tasks that must be performed to maintain a park, which are identified here. I'm going to read them to you. Determining the level of acceptable performance for a maintenance standard then is one of the first and most difficult tasks in implementing a maintenance program for parks and rec facilities. So again, this may be a test question. So determining the level of acceptable performance for a maintenance standard is one of the first and most difficult tasks in implementing a maintenance program for our facilities. So parks and maintenance staff, ready? There's 14. Number 1, turf care. 2, fertilizer. 3, irrigation. 4, litter control. 5, pruning. 6, disease control. 7, snow removal. 8, lighting. 9, surfaces, such as walls that need a paint. 10 is repairs. 11, inspection. 12, floral planting. 13, restrooms, and 14, special features. Okay, so we're going to talk about standards now. Actual standards can be written in a variety of ways. Consistent with the development of standards in general, they should be specific in what they require and should make clear the level of performance that is to be achieved. Some examples are included following. I'm going to give you some examples. The first list includes examples of, okay, so this is important. The first list I'm going to give you includes examples of maintenance standards that are to be achieved. The second list includes examples of maintenance worker productivity standards. So let me give you a difference. So the first list is here, and these are maintenance standards that are to be achieved. So here they are. Maintenance standards, turf areas. All turf areas and high traffic areas will be mowed every 5 working days during the optimal growing season, or turf will not be allowed to exceed X inches in height. The specific height would vary depending on the variety of turf planted. Housekeeping. The floors will be wet mopped once per day when the facility is operated. Tile floors will be stripped and waxed 2 times per year. Toilet bowls and urinals will be wet mopped and sanitized once each day when the facility is operated. And so those are examples of maintenance standards that are to be achieved. This next list are examples of maintenance worker productivity standards. So here is an example. Mowing. When using a 21-inch rotary push trim mower, an employee should be able to trim mow 4,800 square feet of turf in 1 hour. Leaf removal. When hand raking leaves, an employee should be able to rake 1,000 square feet in 30 minutes. Shrub maintenance. When trimming shrub hedges with the electric trimmer, an employee should be able to trim a 100-foot row in 90 minutes, including cleanup. Pretty simple. Okay, routine maintenance. Routine maintenance encompasses those activities that preserve or improve the appearance of a facility or piece of equipment. They are completed less frequently than housekeeping activities, and the seasons, previous experience, or user preferences often dictate their cycle of occurrence. Neglecting to complete these tasks will seldom result in an immediate loss of service, but continued neglect of them may lead to failures. Okay, typical examples of this type of work include stripping and waxing floors, painting walls, changing furnace filters, adjusting doors, changing light bulbs in difficult locations, cleaning lighting fixtures, and other similar activities. This work may be completed on a planned scheduled interview or in response to facility user requests. Because these tasks are not urgent, the manager has discretion in scheduling their completion. Unskilled workers may perform some of these tasks, although skilled workers must perform others. In a small operation, a contractor may perform some of the specialized tasks. For example, the periodic painting of the exterior of a building or facility may be contracted to a firm with specialized spray equipment. When contracting for services, the manager must prepare the specifications for the work, obtain bids, award the bids, and inspect the completed work to assure compliance with the bid specifications. While some of the requests for this routine maintenance are more informal, like, for example, an employee asking a maintenance employee to complete a routine maintenance task, there are times when the request will take the form of a work order request. A work order is a form memorandum requesting that specific maintenance services be performed. They're usually initiated by one of the following individuals, either like a park and recreation professional, on-site maintenance workers, or facility users. Routine inspections may also lead to the identification of needed maintenance, resulting in the issuance of a work order. Staff must be trained to recognize conditions needing the issuance of a work order. To do this, they must understand the quality level of maintenance desired by the agency. Agency supervisory personnel often gauge the sufficiency of how well staff is upholding the agency's desired quality standards through their own visual inspections of facilities. In a system that is functioning well, the majority of work orders should emanate from staff at the facility, not the patrons or management personnel. Furthermore, routine inspection programs should also be the source of many work orders. If they are not, additional training regarding the quality level to be maintained is probably needed. We should also understand that landscaping can be an effective tool to enhance the natural attractiveness of an area, and to invite users to come and join in, and to channel people along reinforced pathways, keep them safe, and help disguise maintenance areas and other human-made structures. But understand the relationship between landscaping and recreation programs. Unless the design goal is to create a formal landscape area, landscaping should support rather than dictate the program efforts. The maintenance of landscape areas is best facilitated by the use of written plans that outline responsibilities for field personnel in simple and clear terms. The written landscaping plan should include the goals and objectives of the plan, a detailed inventory of the site, including accurate listings of all features, fauna, facilities, topography, soils, and utility and communications line, a listing of maintenance tasks and standards, defining the successful fulfillment of the task, and a format for scheduling routine and infrequent maintenance work. Supervising landscape maintenance also requires an inventory of available materials, supplies, and tools to complete the task, and knowledge of the direct and indirect personnel available, including the types and levels of expertise of each employee. Ultimately, the supervision of maintenance for landscape areas relies on the understanding that landscaping remains as a means to an end rather than the end itself. All right, the next section is preventative maintenance, still in the area of in the area of implement maintenance standards is preventative maintenance. So this is undertaken to prolong the life of the equipment, thereby preventing its premature failure. It is also performed to improve organizational efficiency by avoiding costly downtime due to inoperable equipment. All preventative maintenance activities should make certain that equipment is properly cleaned, lubricated, and adjusted. It should also include an inspection to detect impending problems early enough to allow for appropriate intervention to prevent failure. The frequency of a preventative maintenance program depends on a number of factors. First, determine the nature of the mechanics of the piece of the equipment. How sensitive is it to misalignment? How rapidly is it likely to wear out? How much lubrication does it need to continue operating properly? The cost of a piece of equipment is a second factor to consider. Preventative maintenance would not be performed on an electric pencil sharpener, for example, but it would be on a copying machine. Third, how central is a piece of equipment to service delivery? This issue is especially important consideration in a recreational facility, such as the only Zamboni ice resurfacer on an ice rink would likely receive preventative maintenance, whereas a water heater for the showers may not. Preventative maintenance is planned maintenance that is scheduled as part of the maintenance crew's ongoing work responsibilities. The exact timing of its completion is somewhat discretionary. Although the agency's maintenance personnel can perform much preventative maintenance, in some instances, these services will be contracted to specialized technicians. It is generally accepted that a good preventative maintenance program will lead to longer equipment life, fewer equipment failures, with resulting loss of service, and a better use of maintenance staff and lower maintenance costs. And the last section in this chapter is, or this task section, I should say, is repairs or replacements. And then, so construction, renovation, and repairs are commonplace in parks and recreation. To address these projects, parks and recreation agencies often hire external contractors One of the first steps in working with a contractor is to prepare bids for contractual work. The Parks and Recreation professional must ensure that the specifications in the bid are prepared correctly and include the appropriate operational considerations. The fundamentally important element in contracting for construction or maintenance is to ensure that the work can be performed at the level delineated in the contract, and that the construction or maintenance is purchased at the lowest measurable cost. Once bids have been submitted and a contractor has been identified, we must then supervise the project. Oftentimes, performance standards, building requirements, and expectations are specified in the contract prior to beginning the work. At times, amendments or changes to the work, the price, schedule, etc., outlined in the original contract will need to be made. Referred to as change orders, amendments to the contract will often require a formal statement of what is to be changed and a formalized acceptance process, such as signatures of the proposed changes. Okay, and that concludes the section on implement maintenance standards. So we have time for one more little small section, and I'm going to bring up the next slide. And this is the next slide is stay current with changes in applicable regulatory agency policies. And I'm going to end, I might end here, maybe not, we'll see. If you guys can hang in there, I'm going to go a little bit longer so I can get through this section to where I can record this in just two sittings. So stay current with changes in applicable regulatory agency policies. So we must be aware of regulatory policies impacting our agencies. These regulatory policies can range from Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, and Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, policies and regulations to Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC, and National Labor Relations Board, NLRB laws. A list of the most common regulatory agencies associated with us is provided right here. And so I'm going to scroll through here very slowly so everybody can listen to it. And so that's the list. And basically, laws and regulations from these agencies will often change, requiring us to be diligent in their gathering of regulatory, basically requiring us to be diligent in our gathering of regulatory intelligence. In staying current with regulatory agency changes, we can rely on a variety of sources, including the regulatory agencies themselves, publications, newsletters, professional magazines, academic journals, and professional development opportunities, such as like conferences, institutes, and workshops. Once the professional has obtained information about changing regulations, he or she must determine whether the change will impact their agency and its operations. In some instances, the changing regulations will come in with a scheduled implementation timeline and a grace period, for example, to allow the professional and agency to plan and fully implement the regulatory change. In other instances, the change required may be immediate. Regardless of the timeline, we should develop an action plan to ensure that the regulatory changes will be implemented in accordance with the new standard or law. Once we've reviewed the regulatory change, determined its impact on the agency, and developed an action plan, a communication plan should be established. The communication plan should focus on strategies for disseminating the information change to staff All relevant or impacted staff should be educated on the changing regulation and corresponding implementation plan. Internal audits or reviews can be performed during this phase to assess the implementation process and identify potential issues. Okay, I'm going to try to push through this, and we only have one section left. Perfect. So that concludes the section on stay current with changes in applicable regulatory agencies' policies. The last section for today will be to maintain information systems. This includes entering data, use permits, reservations, registrations, equipment, and equipment use records. So the major responsibility for us is to facilitate leisure experiences for participants. This is accomplished with many different operational formats, and they can range from intense and highly organized program in which a leader and all the supplies and equipment needed are supplied to simply providing facility or equipment. Here's an example. Consider the operation of a camping program. At the lowest end of the provision, the agency may simply supply a camper with a map of camping locations and issue a use permit, thereby providing the camper with a facility and directions to it. The next level of provision may include all that was mentioned previously, plus rental of camping gear, such as equipment rentals. An additional level of service could add the sale of camping supplies. Finally, the agency could also offer a complete weekend camping expedition, complete with the leader and guide, all equipment and supplies. Thus, it is the case that facilitating a leisure experience for patrons will not only involve providing them with the facility, equipment, supplies, or unique services needed for a specific activity. Examples of the latter could include ice skating, ice skate sharpening, or stringing a tennis racket, or providing a fishing guide service, etc. It is our responsibility to understand the needs of constituents and to provide those amenities needed to facilitate access to the services they desire. Accomplishing this could require the provision of a highly organized lead service or simply providing the facility. Adequately serving a large and diverse population could require the provision of the complete range of service formats for an activity to meet the requirements of all constituents. Providing these types of services requires us to develop policies, operate rental stores, develop self-guided maps, and other functions usually not thought of as leisure service delivery activities. To the degree that they create access to leisure opportunities for the agency's constituents, they are legitimate professional activities for parks and recreation agencies. To ensure quality customer service, we need to be familiar with the common program registration reservation methods, forms, and procedures. And here's the different types listed. So there's basically of the reservation methods, there's walk-in, mail-in, telephone, fax-in, web-based, and registration and reservation forms. Okay, so we're going to go over the methods first, and then the procedures, and then equipment use records. So the walk-in, there's two types of walk-in methods. There's a central location and a program location. The central location is basically occurs at the agency's main office during specific days and times. Staff are able to be there and address questions about all the agency's programs and are responsible for handling all the cash flow from registrations and reservations within the agency. The program location registrations and reservations occur at the actual site of the program, such as a fitness center, swimming pool, or aerobic studio. This method allows participants the opportunity to visit the program site and interact with the program staff prior to starting the program. On the other hand, this method can be prone to more cash handling problems for the agency and requires more travel time for participants who wish to register for several of the agency's programs. Mail-in. So mail-in method requires participants to complete a form and then mail it in with the payment to the agency. This method allows for the greatest flexibility in scheduling staff to process registrations, and it's convenient for participants, but severely limits the agency in terms of participant interaction prior to the start of the program. Telephone. This method usually requires the participant to call in a centralized location to register for all the agency's programs. Similar to central location walk-in registration, this method has the advantage of centralized cash control. However, this method lacks face-to-face interactions and can lead to problems if the program has limited space and a potentially high volume of calls. Fax-in. So fax-in allows participants to register via a fax machine, basically. This method embraces similar advantages and disadvantages to the mail-in method. Web-based. So web-based registration and reservations utilize the internet to assist participants in reviewing, registering, reserving, and paying for programs and services. The types of web-based registrations vary depending on the agency's resources. Some agencies have highly interactive registration procedures that allow participants to complete, including the payment, the entire registration process online. Other agencies provide fully downloadable registration forms online, such as PDF files that are completed and mailed, emailed, or delivered to the agency. And so this is something I underlined for you. It is worth mentioning that several park and recreation agencies utilize a combination of registration methods in an effort to improve convenience and meet the diverse needs of the communities they serve. However, despite these benefits, a combination approach does require careful planning and communication among staff to ensure the registration reservation process is well organized. And then under forms, another important step in facilitating a successful registration and reservation process for participants is the use of the form. And there's a form right here that I'm bringing up on the screen. And when designating a form, keep the form simple to complete while obtaining as much information as possible for use in future marketing. So here's an example, and it should at a minimum have the date, the participant contact information, the program the participant wants to register for, the program fee, to whom the check should be written, a liability release form, payment method information, instructions to where to set, and instructions on where to send the registration. And all that is right here on this form. So under registration reservation procedures, We must always be concerned with the procedures, the methods, and the procedures, and the development of adequate forms, as well as pay close attention to providing quality customer service during this whole registration and reservation process. Well-organized process is important as it often serves as the participant's initial exposure to the agency, staff, and the program. To address this important process, we should make sure that the agency has enough staff to handle the registration needs. Efforts to calculate the time needed for the registration process should be conducted. The results of these calculations can be used to make ongoing adjustments to the process to ensure that registration and reservations are completed in a reasonable time. We should also coordinate the registration and reservation times with local customs. So establish varied registration and reservation times like morning, afternoons, evenings, and weekends to accommodate the needs of the public. Then we should orient and train staff prior to performing the registrations. In particular, staff should be trained in the following areas: customer relations, dealing with dissatisfied customers; program specifics, such as start date and time, cost, program, content, age restrictions, waste list procedures, payment policies, refund procedures, and non-resident rates, etc., and cash handling procedures. And then develop a well-organized plan for queuing procedures. So queuing is defined as waiting in line for a turn to be served. Then utilize clear and concise registration forms, and ensure that adequate registration forms and pens and pencils and things like that are available. The last section in this chapter is equipment use records. So in addition to data entry and managing permit usage, reservations, and registrations, we must keep accurate equipment use records. Often, an agency will have a formalized equipment use system in place to allow individuals the opportunity to use equipment owned by the agency. A key element of the system is an equipment use form, and I put the form right here up on the screen. The equipment use form specifies the terms of the agreement, the username, contact information, usage dates, conditions, deposit requirements, pickup, return dates, etc. And here's the example. So I'm going to slowly scroll through this while I finalize this section. Maintaining accurate records and a current filing system of the agency's equipment use forms is also an important task for us. The forms should be organized in a manner that ensures staff can retrieve the file quickly, as this information is often needed while the individual who has requested the use of the equipment is present, either on the telephone or in person. Some agencies store these equipment use records and request forms electronically, while others file hard copies of these documents. Regardless of the storage method, these records should be organized in an effective manner. And some of the most common filing systems include alphabetical by user's last name, subject-based by program area, geographical or location, like by park site or facility, numeric, utilization of agency coding systems, or a combination approach. And that concludes the section on maintain information systems. That concludes today's session. I'll be doing the second part of operations over the weekend and mailing that out to you on Monday. So thank you, and I'm going to stop the recording now. Are there any questions before I do so, though? You can either unmute yourself or type it in. Okay, seeing no questions, thank you very much, and I will now stop the recording, if I can figure out how to do that. There it is.